So I thought I'd try something different in the light of recent events, the murder of George Floyd and the larger uprising of Black Lives Matter. I thought that I would get a little bit more personal and possibly a little more vulnerable. Um, I feel like maybe some people need to hear that. Um, I definitely feel like I've been naively ignorant for a long time. Definitely also think that when you're being naive and ignorant, then you have that opportunity to change, to learn more, to just try to do better, to try to be more open and aware of what's happening. And that's kind of what I want to do, what I've been trying to do. Um, I think that some people choose to stay ignorant when something is in your face and you still can't see what's happening and what's right and what's wrong. There are definitely people that are still choosing to be ignorant and to be blind. I maybe that's, well, we'll go into it later. This is going to be a part one, probably turn into three pieces, just because things keep getting bigger. But I definitely have unintentionally closed my eyes to things. None of us like knowing that there's bad things happening. Nobody wants to be afraid and nobody wants to feel bad. And so sometimes we close our eyes, and that's how we feel better about ourselves in a way. Because when someone puts in front of you that terrible things are happening and you have the power to be one person to help change it, and you choose not to for whatever reason, I'm not judging anyone on their reasons for not for being open and understanding what's happening, but not doing, you know, crazy outward things. There's no judgment on that from me. But I know as a human being that is difficult. No one likes something being put in front of you and saying you could do better. But it was good for me. It was a challenge for me. And it reminded me of who I used to be. When I was young, um, junior high and high school, I would tell everyone I was going to be the first woman president. I had every intention. I loved the US government class. I loved history class. I know now history in school was not exactly what history in reality was, but in those moments, that's what I wanted to do. I saw myself as a young woman in college and doing the marches and holding up signs and fighting for things that were, injustices, whatever it be. And somewhere along the line, I lost that. And not to put blame on anyone else because we're all responsible for our own actions at some point in our life. But it definitely was difficult to stand for things when the people that you were around, the people that raised you, the families you married into, were not supportive of that. And I didn't stop believing the things. I always had the same belief system, but I definitely stopped standing. And I don't ever want to be like that again. My life changed drastically when certain people came into it. Um, the last, I don't know, 10 years of my life have been just this amazing, eye opening experiences. And I'll get into it a little bit more, but I want to start with when I was young. So I always knew I was kind of different than a lot of people around me. Um, I'll give you kind of an example. And none of this is to say that I was perfect, but please, by no means am I perfect. I have fucked up a lot of things in my life. I have, I'm sure, said things that were so wrong and so inappropriate. Um, and I that I have no excuse for that. But when I was a little girl, it was different. I mean, when we're kids, we see the world in this whole different view. Like, if we could all just keep a piece of that, I've always felt like maybe things would be different, right? We're so innocent, we're so naive, and we legitimately just see a person as a person. I teach my children all the time, and I know they're saying now, don't say I don't see color, and I understand how that is, but I have taught my children that you don't see a person for what their skin looks like, and you don't see a person for who they sleep with, because that doesn't fucking matter. You see the person for who they are. I tell everyone, this is me. I'm Julia. That's all you need to know. I'm me. I'm me no matter who's in my bed, and, no matter what color my skin is. I'm Julia. I tell my children the same about themselves. Now, I've also taught my children that culture is important. Always embrace culture. One of my favorite things in the world is trying different foods from different countries, different cultures, and it's amazing. And it's something that I loved about America, is that we have this huge melting pot of culture, and you can go almost anywhere and try any kind of food. You can go almost anywhere and find a friend who's from a different culture and have opportunity to learn more. And I tell my kids, and I'm very thankful that my children have definitely taken that. They have friends of every ethnicity, everything, and every sexual orientation, things that I don't even understand and comprehend. They teach me every day. But something I've also taught them is to always check on your friends. We have a lot of the children have a lot of Black friends. My son's girlfriend is Black. We have they have a lot of Hispanic friends, Asian friends, and we try to always be like welcoming. And I teach the girls that when they're at their friend's house and they're cooking different food, try the food, like be open to it, but also talk to your friends, learn about their culture. Why do you celebrate that? Why do you wear that clothing? Or why do you believe these things that you believe? Like, just be open and learn, because you can't be loving. Well, you can, but you're even more loving and caring when you understand. But I've also taught them to ask their friends questions. If they were not born here, ask them what was hard about where they came from. Ask them what's hard about being here. Ask them what things hurt. What do people say and do to them that makes them feel bad and makes them sad? Because we don't really go through that. My children, like, we're very blessed. We're very lucky. Not just because we're white, because if some people were to look at my daughter, they would not believe she's my daughter. Her skin is very dark, and both parents are white, and she is a white girl, but to the outside world, she may not look like that. But we've been blessed at always being able to be financially okay, and in situations that we've always been okay. But I want them to know what other people have to go through, and also to teach them how lucky they are, but to be sensitive to what their friends have to deal with. And all of that being said, I'm by far not perfect. I want my children to be better human beings than I am. And that's what I strive. I want them to be open and loving and learn. And I teach them any religion, any question you have. If I don't know, I'm going to learn. I'm going to find someone. Same with cultures. I don't know. I don't know everything. I don't know a lot of things. But I want them to grow up to be better than me. And I think that I'm doing that because they teach me things every day that make me a better person. But we'll go back to the little girl. So I always knew I was kind of different. I was always kind of a weird kid. But so I grew up 80s and 90s. The first crushes, like movie star, famous people crushes I ever had in my life. These are the first three, and you'll understand why they're important. But Princess Leia, Michael Jackson, and John Candy. Now, let me break it down for you. Michael Jackson was an amazing artist. You can say what you want. I'm always going to have my own opinion of him. You could, but for one moment, take aside anything that you believe that happened with him and just remember that he was fucking talented. I always wanted to be a singer. I always wanted to be a dancer. I still want to be a singer. And he was so talented, and he could do these things that no one else could do. And he could sing, and he'd been doing that his whole life. And so to me, that was very attractive. And when I was a little kid, I saw nothing else than that. Damn, this guy did this stuff I wish I could do. He inspired me and, you know, made me hungry for doing those things that I was passionate about. Princess Leia, I know she was just like, she was a character. In reality, she was not real, but when you're a little kid, like, you have no concept of the difference. But she was a strong woman. And not only was she a strong woman, she was a beautiful woman. And she could kick your ass and still look great. I mean, who doesn't want to be like that? Or what woman doesn't want to be like that? But so again, I was attracted to that strength with beauty, because sometimes as little girls we're taught that you are either masculine or feminine, and we don't teach like that here, but she could be both, and I love that, and I wanted to be like that. And then John Candy, because he was funny, and his characters were always warm and compassionate and loving, and he was sweet and kind. And so I was, of course, attracted to that. But I remember my mom asking me why I always had, like, I still have Michael Jackson buttons, by the way. Michael Jackson buttons, Princess Leia posters. I would cut out pictures of John Candy in magazines. I would make sure if a John Candy movie was on, I was like, I had to watch. And I just remember talking with my mom one day, and she asked why. Like, what was my thing with these people? And I was like, well, I'm going to marry them. Duh. Like, I like them. I'm going to marry them. I'm a little kid. So I'm definitely marrying all of them. And my mother told me I was wrong. She said I could never marry Michael Jackson because he was black. And I remember thinking that was weird. Honestly, truthfully, I didn't understand what was black. My mother, before this moment, never said that's a black person. And I never saw it as different. I mean, obviously you can see there's difference in pigments, but I never thought of it as something different. They were from a different place. They originate from a different country. We all do. Hello, America, we did not look like this. People, come on. Who was here first? Yeah, that's good. Another story. And then I couldn't marry Princess Leia because she was a girl and I was a girl. And I was like, whatever, who cares? And then John Candy, she still talks shit about to this day. She cannot understand. She just said she couldn't understand. She didn't know what I liked about him. And she was like, okay, well, he's funny. Okay. But, I was wrong to like these people. But that just goes to say, like, it didn't matter to me what the person looked like. But when we're kids, that is how we are. Pretty much all of us, unless you're already being taught to hate someone for being a different color, or liking the same sex, or identifying differently, or being overweight. When you're a child, you don't see those things. Those don't exist in your world. You just see a person. And I've tried to always live that way. So I'm going off track. But I also when thinking of these things, I came, got deeper into my rabbit hole of my brain and was thinking like, wow, why have I been like so naive and ignorant on some things? And I started remembering things that I was told when I was a child, beside, just straight up being told when I was like 6 or 7, that I couldn't marry Michael Jackson because he was black. Not because he's older than me or, famous and I was a little poor white trash girl. No, it was because he was black. She could have used very many different excuses. But I also remember that my mother, as we got older, told us that interracial relationships were against the Bible. And me and my sister were always very confused at this. And so when I was in high school, I wrote something, and I'll go into it later because I want to break it down a little bit more. But I wrote something that I called "White is Not a Race." Don't get too upset. I bring it all in there. But it's when I started realizing I started realizing in junior high, because we'll get into it, but race by definition is related by common descent or heredity. Race is not about your skin color. Think about it. There's a lot of people who have, and I'm not saying racism is not a thing. Please, it is. I'm just saying when white people are talking, there's a lot of people that are white. But when you're talking about a race, so I'm speaking with my mother on interracial relationships, Scottish, Irish, Russian, German, Hungarian. I mean, I don't know all of them, but hello, people. There's a lot of pale skins, okay? There's a lot of light-skinned people. Race, there's many, many races. So when I'm in junior high and my mom is telling my sister and I that interracial marriage, interracial dating, and interracial babies are against God, we are totally perplexed. My sister's dad was born in Mexico. My sister's father. He never became a United States citizen. He actually moved back to Mexico when he left my mom, and he died in the mid-90s. My father was never a United States citizen. He came here when he was 5. He came from Scotland. My father was 100% Scottish. So, yes, his skin was white, but he was a different race. So me and my sister were like, oh my God, we're bad. God doesn't want us, right? Because my mom made us with other races. I remember that we brought it up to her at one point, and my mother said, no, it's okay. Me and Julie are white, and you were raised with us, to my Mexican sister. So you're white. Now my sister is very light skinned. She definitely passes as white. She definitely goes out of her way to look white. I cannot help but think that has something to do with my mom, but now she is older, could have to do with a lot of things. But beyond that, I remember going places, the store or restaurants or whatnot, and my stepdad was very passive. He didn't argue with my mom on a lot of things. If it had to do with us defending me or my sister, then yeah, he would. But he was probably the person that I learned quiet protests from. Okay, anytime we'd go somewhere and he would see mixed babies, he would go to the parents and tell them how beautiful their baby was. And I remember talking to my dad and being like, Dad, how can it be wrong? Like, these babies are gorgeous. If it was wrong by God and they were some abomination, Wouldn't something be wrong with them? Let me backtrack here now, though. Probably this is in the moments where I realize that I do not believe in a monotheistic God, and I do not believe in his book. I believe in balance. I'm going to get into that a little bit more later too, but I couldn't understand. And I remember we're in Sizzler, and me and my sister are like, we're going to ask her. We're going to ask her. So we're abominations. Yeah, my mom's going to hell. Yep, she made babies, interracial babies, yeah. And this is the moment we realized my mom didn't mean interracial babies. My mom meant black and white babies. My mom had an ugly name for them. I don't even remember, because it almost sounded like what people call like Down syndrome a long time ago. But she had a very ugly name for it. And the sad part is, until this very moment at this very Sizzler, I didn't realize that was not what they were called. Because my whole life, that's what she called it. Keep in mind, please, I'm like 12 years old at this point, okay? So we ask her, okay, Mom, if it's wrong, what about us? And she gave us the lecture on, well, you're raised with white people, so you're white. But then she went on to say that interracial babies that are black and white, the word that she used, I'm sorry, and I'll try to remember it, but I'm sure it's extremely offensive, so I apologize in advance. But that my mother sat and told a 10 and 12-year-old in public, with next to us, 2 tables down, an interracial couple with their 2 gorgeous little girls that my stepdad already went over and, said how beautiful they were. And you could see like the anger in my mother's face for that, and then us bringing this up. And this woman actually told my sister and I that black and white mixed babies are not accepted by God, and that they go to hell. They have no chance to go to heaven. And I couldn't understand the hell kind of God would throw away a baby, a child, or even as an adult, someone who didn't have a fucking choice of what they looked like. I mean, hell, fucking none of us do, right? Like, we can pay for, changes later, but we're born the way we're born. And how could some all-powerful, almighty, all-loving God throw someone away because their parents chose something? And that's when I realized what a cruel person my mother was. Now, I'm going longer than I was supposed to, but I wanted to tell 2 stories. My mother always raised us to say that my grandfather was the racist, and she used the excuse that it was the way he grew up, it was the way he raised. Now, I do understand, like, times were different. It's not acceptable, it's not okay. But it was different when my grandfather grew up, and that is how he was raised. And then my mother used that for the way she felt, that my grandfather raised her to be that way too. So, being the little quiet protester who enjoys stirring a little shit pot, one year for Christmas, I asked my mother for a Cabbage Patch, but I wanted a specific one. So, though she was angry, it was the only thing I asked for at this time. Now keep in mind, I'm like 12 years old. I don't need to be having a doll, but I'm asking. So I asked for a black Cabbage Patch doll. She's furious, but she gets it for me. And she tells me never, never take it to my grandfather's house. Well, we used to go to Grandpa's house Christmas morning, so whoops, opened my Cabbage Patch. Accidentally brought him with me, right? Now, my grandfather said a couple things that were definitely inappropriate. I'm not going to tell you what they were, because all in all, my grandfather was a good man. I never in my entire life heard him say one racial slur. Now, I knew he had opinions on certain races, but he didn't ever really say anything bad, and definitely never about Black people. And I remember, so even after this, so I'm now almost 13, 14, and he comes to our house for Thanksgiving, and across the street lives a Black family. Fun fact, side note, 13 years old, I'm in 7th grade. My first official boyfriend was Black. The first boy I ever kissed was this same boyfriend, 13 years old. Now, I hid it from my parents for a while, and then I maybe kind of accidentally wanted them to know, because my girlfriend and I wrote letters back and forth, and I might have accidentally left one out in a little open. So that was a really fun lecture to get from my mother about, interracial relationships. I was 13. Come on. But my grandfather was there for Thanksgiving, and we're outside in the garage, me and my sister and a couple friends playing. And so the boy that was my boyfriend, he had 2 younger sisters and a tiny little baby brother. And the older of the 2 sisters came over because she always spent time with us. She was like 6 at the time. And she came over, and she's in the garage, and she's jumping rope, and she's singing, she's dancing. And my grandfather all of a sudden just gets like eyes on her. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, what's going to happen? And he says, wow, that's a lot of hair. You have a ton of hair. And she goes, oh, it's not my hair. And he says, what do you mean it's not your hair? Look at all your cute little barrettes. And he's, being very sweet to this little girl. And next thing you know, his hands are in her hair, and she's explaining where her hair ends and the braids start. And she's like, yeah, this is not my hair. You can see the little spot up here. And my mom does my hair. And she's telling him how like her hair gets braided and it hurts and she has to sit still, and all the things that her mom does to get her hair to look like that. Next thing you know, my grandfather's sitting in a chair with this little girl on his lap, and she is talking his ear off, and trust she can talk. And he's just listening to her, like deeply listening to everything this little girl says, and laughing and smiling. And that was the moment I realized that my grandfather was not what my mom said. My grandfather was my mom's fall guy. My mom wanted to have a reason to be racist, so she blamed my grandfather. So I want to tie it all back around. All of this being said, this is why I want to teach my children to be better. I don't want to be like my mother. And please understand that I've never said things like that. But I have said that, oh no, this is California. This is America. It's not that bad. And it's not as bad as it was, but it definitely shouldn't be as bad as it still is. I'll probably bring it up on a later one too, but just a fun story that helped me kind of tie things together and understand how naive and I had been for so long. I have a good friend who is Black, and he's always been really amazing at kind of helping me understand things. So if we heard something on the news, or we always would talk about good topics. Like, he is very intelligent, and he, we discuss things, and something that I really enjoy about him, because you can talk about smart things. And he never told me like, no, you're stupid. But he knew that I was naive, and he knew that I didn't see the things that he saw, but he understood why I didn't. But I'd like to think that, well, he did tell me recently that he knows that I'm a good person, and that I'm trying to raise my kids to be better. He agreed I was that. But I remember saying things. What? Is that real? And he would tell me, oh yeah, Jules, you just don't know. You don't understand, Jules. You won't understand. You don't know. So he didn't hate me for being naive. But he would only give me information like if I dug for it. So he was the first person I went to when I started feeling the conviction in my heart for not doing as much as I should be doing. And that's exactly it. I'm a good person. I try my best. But it's not enough because I have a voice that I can use to help to make things better, and a lot of that is teaching my children to be better. So I'm partway there. But it's not enough. But a story that I wanted to share is that I remember hanging out with him one day, and we were outside the back of the bar that I worked at the time. It was dark. It was nighttime. It was just he and I outside. And someone walked past at the end of the strip mall. And my friend did head nod. And I was like, what is that? And he says, oh, sorry. He says, oh, it's a black guy down there. He nod. I nod back. And I'm thinking, that's weird. Why? Like, do you know him? No. Why do I have to know him? Jules, you just don't understand. I was like, well, tell me. Like, I want to understand. Like, why? Why do you nod heads with someone you don't know? And he says, he was telling me he sees me. And I was telling him, I see him back. I was like, okay, whatever. Kind of to brush it off. It's a guy thing. That's how I took it. It's a guy thing. So I made some jokes about how I'm going to say hi to women from now on. But now, the other day, I read this article that really brought tears to my eyes. And a lot of things right now are. And I'm feeling so broken, like broke open, like in the right way, you know, where your heart is broke open. So now it's ready to get refilled with other things that are better and smarter than what you knew before. But this article, as a mom, my heart died because I tell my daughters, you can't go anywhere by yourself. Don't walk to the store by yourself. Don't go anywhere by yourself. You're girls. Here's things you need to look out for. Don't get into cars. Pay attention to what men say to you. Don't send people your address on the internet. My girls have been through traumatic things already in their life, and I don't need that to happen anymore. And bad things happen to girls. So I'm reading this article, and this young black man is talking about the list he had to memorize before he left the house. Things he had to remember to do and to not do at 11 years old. Things like don't put the hood on when you're walking. Don't put your hands in your pocket. Only pick up things in the grocery store or in the store that you're going to buy. Don't play your music too loud in your car. Always get a bag and a receipt, even if you're only buying a pack of gum. Stop me when you've had to do any of this. We don't. We haven't. This is what they mean by the white privilege stuff, and we'll get all into it later. But then something struck me that he said. His mom said, always check on your people, even if they're down the street. And it hit me. What my friend had been trying to explain to me years ago when he said, the man sees him and he sees him back. He didn't just say, I see you. He said, I see that you're there, but I'm here too. And I got you. Beautiful kind of thing. I'm going to end with this because I went further than I was supposed to. But some things to know about me since I put them out there on Facebook. I might as well put them out there here. I said earlier, do not believe in a monotheistic God or his book. We believe in balance here in my house. And I will talk about it later and why I was naive in some ways because of this belief. But we also do stand up for, Black Lives Matter and the gay community, which I've talked about before. Like, you can't walk into my house and not know that we don't. You can't be in a room with us and not know that we don't. But both of these things are very dear to my heart because my house, my physical house, my home, my heart, and my family are filled with these people. And my life changed because of people of certain people of color, and definitely by the gay community in so many ways I can't even explain. But we also stand up for, Hispanic people, Asian people, any culture. I don't allow my children to say that Islam is bad and that they're all terrorists. We don't talk about that. We embrace and we learn, and we're not naive. My daughters try to educate. They're very, very conservative father on what I teach them, and that will be a tough egg to crack. But we believe in freedom of speech. We live that in my home. You can be fucking pissed off if you want, little girl. You're gonna be nice about it. You could tell us why. I want them to take that to the world. We believe in freedom of speech. It's where people get fucked up, though. Definitely believe in our right to bear arms. And I probably own some. But that's just some of the differences, okay? But with all that being said, I don't know. Part 1, done. Too long. And we'll get to part 2 and probably part 3 later. But thanks for bearing with me, and just Jules' useless thought of the day.